you all for being on time and for coming to this workshop by Lynn Bulock. If you are in the wrong workshop, you can be free to go. But she's going to be talking about Bridges of Hope. And so we just want to say we're excited to have Lynn here with us. And just give you a little bit about her background, she might share more, is that she's a graduate of Fuller Seminary, and she works at the New Hope Lutheran Church in Agoura Hills, so not too far from here. And she also works part-time with NAMI, so that's why she knows so much about NAMI. And so she works part-time at New Hope as well as part-time at NAMI. She has another half job. I think she's just more than qualified to talk about Bridges of Hope, and she's the FaithNet expert for NAMI, so there's actually a spiritual arm for NAMI, and we're just excited to get more like FaithNet involvement here in Ventura County. So
there you go.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah. How many of you know something about NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness? So I don't know how deep I have to go. We're the largest grassroots organization to provide help, support, and education for folks with a mental health condition and their families. We do not recommend specific therapists, drugs, anything like that. We are just to help people get to the point where they need to go. And as Carol said, FaithNet is NAMI's arm that gets together with churches, temples, all kinds of faith communities, because we've recognized that there are our best supporters and we can be theirs. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but I will say that people who are in a mental health crisis or their family member is in a mental health crisis, especially first-time people in crisis, are as likely to go to their faith community, whether or not they're an active member, as they are to a medical professional.
That's interesting.
Which is why we need to equip folks who are the front line in faith communities to help them be able to help the people who are already coming to their doors and already part of their community. Like to do a quick little exercise, and I'll get back to it later. But if you could start here and just count off 1 through 5.
1,
2,
3,
4, 5, 6.
No, 1.
2, 3.
4, 5, 1.
Okay.
Oh, wait.
No, you're fine. That's fine. Just remember your number. So, I've already gotten to the why are faith and spirituality important for people affected with mental health conditions. There's one other reason that faith and mental health go together. We in the church have something to offer that nobody else does, and that is hope. We have a different kind of hope than the rest of the world can give. And people who are struggling with mental health conditions are very hungry for that help. Assistance, but also acceptance. We are the ones that can break the stigma barrier. If we can accept everyone and make them welcome, whether or not they have a mental health condition, then we're doing a job that nobody else can do quite the same way. Mental health conditions can be serious, and some are not as serious. But what is mental health? What would you say? Mental health is well-being, just like your bodily well-being. There is also mental, and it ties into spiritual well-being. So we are here and can be here to provide the help that nobody can provide in the same way that we are. 1 in 5. So let's just go, everybody who had the number 3, stand up. If you were a 3. Okay, in this room, that is representative of the number of persons who are living with a serious or at least challenging mental health condition. And if you would sit down, this represents the number of those people who actually get help. Half of the folks who have a serious mental health condition will never seek help. And much of that is, you may sit down now, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Because of the stigma involved, the shame, the challenge, they don't want to share with people something that makes them feel extremely different. NAMI and faith communities working together can help bust that stigma. We mean, as it says, more than simply hope. We can give education, advocacy, and y'all can come along with us and do just that. You can see that it used to be that the numbers for youth experiencing mental health challenges were less than adults. That is no longer the case. Basically now we say 1 in 5 persons 13 and over in any given time are working through a mental health challenge. And some of those will be lifelong. Many of them are diagnosed by 14, and as it says, 75% by age 21. So if we don't learn about youth mental health programs, we're doing our youth a disservice. And we need to be open and active in talking about things. Talking and listening. If I can get you to listen and to talk about mental health challenges in your church setting and everywhere else, that's half the job right there. To be open and accepted listeners and to be willing to talk and willing to ask some of the hard questions, because there are some hard questions for this. So, mental health conditions are medical conditions, just like our keynote speaker talked about having type 1 diabetes. It's a condition that is slightly limiting to him. It means certain things that he has to do every day to keep himself healthy. Mental health conditions are no different than that. We tend to treat them as something in some respects where they're different from that, but they are physical conditions as well that affect our physical bodies as well as our minds. And if we can accept that and say, well, there is treatment for this. There may not always be a cure this side of the earth, but there are treatments, and they are as physical as they can be mental and emotional. I know that I have to monitor things just like Dr. Strawn says, am I getting enough sleep? Am I eating the right things? Am I wearing myself too far, stretching myself too far? Those all play into mental health as well as physical health. And mental health conditions are an equal opportunity, not employer, but effector. It doesn't matter who you are, in what class of society you are, in what continent you live, no matter who you are, male or female, rich or poor, mental health conditions occur at about the same rates. They affect everyone. And they affect, as I said, those 1 in 5 people. So, what kinds of things do go into the equation? Some of it can be genetic. Some of it you can be predisposed to mental health conditions. They can run in the family. But it's not all genetic. There can be other triggers. Environment, lifestyle influences. In some of the NAMI classes, like family to family and peer to peer, which are different classes for a family member of someone with a mental health concern or a peer, someone who has a mental health challenge themselves, We also talk about something called the second hit. You may be predisposed to a mental health challenge, but there can come that second hit, whether it's genetic, environmental, what have you, that makes that thing that has been lying in wait that you might or might not develop into something that does develop full-blown. And that is often when someone finds themselves in a crisis, a first-time crisis. And it's likely to happen for some serious mental illnesses. Let's choose schizophrenia. For that mental health condition, likelihood of developing a first-time presentation is the highest at between 18 and 24. So many people will say, well, I sent my perfect son or daughter off to college, and then this happened. Well, it didn't happen because you sent them off to college. It happened because that is the time of life when that exposes itself. It can be as young as 14. It can be as old as 30. It's rarer that someone is diagnosed with schizophrenia if they're younger than 14 or older than 30. But it does happen.
Are we allowed to ask as you present?
If you really need to, yeah.
I don't know if it's a need, but...
Well, go.
In that time frame, 18 to 24,
Mm-hmm.
is that biological, sociological, all of the above? I mean, why that
Yes.
age group?
Some of it is developmentally, mind and brain. That is when the right or wrong biochemistry and everything else comes about.
I see.
And it's just a developmentally coming into what we think of as young adulthood is when that disease that has been lying in wait suddenly blossoms in those who are the most likely.
So,
Yeah.
given the ages that you just mentioned,
Uh-huh.
in the past we used to believe that schizophrenic was mostly on older people.
Not at all. No. No, schizophrenia it shows up the first time, whether or not someone is formally diagnosed and whether or not they are treated in the right way. Most than likely, young adulthood. As you can see, 1 in 5 with a mental health condition, 1 in 25 with a serious, extremely life-limiting mental health condition, such as schizophrenia, very treatment-resistant bipolar with schizoaffective features, something that is life-changing to the fact that they may or may not ever be able to function as they did before this came about. Most of us, and I am an us, fall into that depression or depression and anxiety conditions. Depression and anxiety walk hand in hand with each other. The speaking and the listening that I talked about here are things where that comes in. Would you talk to somebody with diabetes, heart disease, cancer like this? Oh, I get you're not feeling well and all, but can't you at least make an effort? You know, I've never heard anyone say that to me because of my hypertension. It's funny that way. And the other one, well, sitting around all day obviously isn't helping you. You need to get up and do something. Activity might be a good thing, but talking in that particular way is not the best way to speak to folks. You need to encourage. You need to work with folks. I statements are something that we at NAMI stress whether or not churches are involved. I am concerned when I see this happening to you. Not, well, it can't be good for you to take medication every day just to feel normal. Aren't you afraid it will change who you really are? Yeah, well, you know, my hypertension medication changes me from who I am too. It changes me into a person that's much less likely to have a stroke, thank you very much. And yes, the depression and anxiety meds I take do change me as well into a person who can stand up and function most days for most of the time. Symptoms that come up in mental health conditions. I'm not going to go through all of them, but let me stress that if you have the PowerPoint, you'll notice something. There are excessive, extreme, difficulties understanding, changes in sleep habit, difficulty perceiving reality, multiple physical accidents. That is the way you tell a mental health challenge from what we think of as typical stressors of life or typical adolescence. When people say, well, how do I know if my 15-year-old is just being a teenager or if they're exhibiting signs of a real mental health crisis? It's those descriptive words, excessive, extreme. When things are getting to be it's every day, all the time, is what happens. But every year, people who struggle with mental health challenges do get better, do find hope, do find treatment. And one of the best ways to go about that is to have a network of people like you, like me, who can reach out to folks with mental health challenges. And NAMI has many ways to be able to equip you to be the best person to reach out. And I can go through some of them later. The spiritual questions, the big ones. You can see all of these. Can you think of any others right away? The big ones are, where is God in this? Why do bad things happen to good people? What have we done wrong? Well, it's not necessarily that we have done anything wrong that brings about a mental health challenge. If you are reading your Bible and Scripture, we don't know what Paul's thorn in the side was. We only know that it was a real challenge to him every day of his life. There's all kinds of biblical scholars say, well, maybe it was epilepsy, maybe it was this, maybe it was that, but we know that he faced challenges every day, but still persevered through them, and did not think that God was punishing him by giving this challenge. But how do our faith help? The best question is, what is next? How do I cope and manage? We can help answer that one between NAMI and faith communities. We are here as faith communities. Our doors are open. People know to go to us in times of trouble. And mental health challenges can be one of those times of trouble, including being a safe place for folks. You know how to provide a safe place for all kinds of other opportunities, and Bridges of Hope and other NAMI programs can help you provide that safe place. Stigma-free. I have some of the materials back there if you want to grab one about. We hope to not just faith communities, but get all kinds of places to be a stigma-free environment. You learn, you see the person or yourself, not the illness. Seeing the person before you see the illness is huge. It usually means that most people who have schizophrenia tend to say just that. I have schizophrenia. Not necessarily I suffer from or more than I deal with. And they are less likely, although I've known a few who'd rather have that designation, I am schizophrenic. No. I am a person who has a mental health challenge. I am not my illness. So here we go. What can we do? How can we act on this? Talk the language of caring and acceptance. Those reaching out. Get into the conversation gradually. Maybe someone senses this is a good place to talk and be in conversation about it. Maybe not. But they might be receptive to saying, well, Would you like to go out and get coffee somewhere? And we can talk about this in a quiet corner of the church, the coffee shop, be wherever. Offer your support and ask, how can I help? We in faith communities can also ask another question. How can I pray for you? How can I pray with you? Are you comfortable with praying about it now together? They may say yes, they may say no, but they can always know that you are praying for them. I have friends who are not particularly religious or spiritually inclined, but very few of them will turn down by saying, can I put this on our church prayer chain? Can I pray for you? We have those options that we can offer people because we have them ourselves. Those are on some of the handouts together. I'm not going to go through all of them. But we're people first. Check in. Ask the person themselves or their family, what can I do to be the most help? Sometimes just starting to talk about things. Get your pastors to talk about things from the pulpit. Mention mental health concerns in sermons. There are many scriptures that lead themselves to talking about mental health challenges. And we can talk later if you want a few of those listed out. Offer to cook a meal, run an errand, or any other helpful task. One of the things we say at NAMI is that mental illness does not necessarily mean that it's a casserole illness. Well, think about this. Someone from church has cancer. They go in the hospital for surgery. You call the family and you say, can we bring you a meal? Every church, just about, will do that. Someone goes into the hospital. They're at Vista Del Mar because they've been having suicidal thoughts. Even if you know this, they may or may not tell you this, but even if you do know this and they've mentioned this, I can almost guarantee you that unless you're a lot more progressive than my faith community, no one is calling that family saying, do you need food? Can we help you? We need to get to the point where it is as natural to think, oh, that family probably needs support. Somebody doing laundry, somebody getting food. Because it's an illness like any other illness or challenge in life, folks. The next 3 slides are a great example. We credit Saddleback Church in Orange County because they do have a very functional, thriving mental health ministry program. And for churches that are considering mental health ministry, if you picked up one of the blue folders, the next 3 slides we've got blown up and for you to take home. And they are walk, crawl, walk, or run. Those are the steps you can take as a church to get into mental health ministry. Crawl are the most easy ones. Here we go. Take a meal to someone newly diagnosed. Give your congregation a survey that asks them questions about it. Give hope by providing encouraging connections, calls, texts, emails. It's not a lot of effort to do these things. Almost any faith community can do some of these. It's the easiest stuff. That's why we call the step crawling. Walking, many churches can get to, especially mid-size or larger. But you have to have a larger base committed to doing this. I'm happy to say that I'm not a part of a very large church. We worship about 100 people every Sunday. I realize in some churches that makes us very large and some that makes us tiny. But have leadership speak specifically about mental illness. Train volunteers to be companions, whether it's at church, whether it's at activities. There are programs out there that are care programs, things like Stephen Ministry, other, yeah. Yay! I'm a Stephen leader.
I am a Stephen leader.
Yeah, and I love it. Stephen Ministry is a one-on-one caring program for Christians that pairs highly trained individuals to walk alongside one person at a time to minister to them in crisis. And that crisis can be mental health, it can be physical, it can be anything you imagine, from losing your job to having a health crisis, to cancer, to mental health, you name it, a death in the family. And one of the things I really like about Stephen Ministry and ministering to people in crisis is they give you a very set out kind of guidelines about, this is where you need to stop saying you can help this individual and say you probably need the help of a professional, especially in mental health crisis. And this is how we're going to be able to help you get that help. But there are other caregiving programs that you can walk alongside someone with in crisis. It's
You mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
I am not my disease, or I am not my diagnoses.
correct.
And I agree with that. But some people embrace the diagnoses. Have you found ways to interrupt that thinking, to create a shift in the way they view themselves, to be able to receive from you?
Yeah, depends on the person. That's a deeper discussion than we can probably get into right here in the middle of things. If you
Okay.
have time to sit down over lunch, maybe, even
Well,
if
I'm
you
on
have
duty in
some
the
of those
library,
questions.
but
Oh, okay.
I will.
Oh, if
I
you're
will-
in
will-
prayer duty, I might come see you. No, I still mean that.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that they're offering here today that is another one of those steps. Offer people prayer. One-on-one, as a prayer chain, no matter what. Specifically mention mental health challenges as well as the other things that you might be offering prayer for. It's out there in the open today because that's what we're all talking about today. But when you go back to your congregation or your community, keep on talking about that. But yes, people can become their disease, and that is a challenge as well. But yeah,
Another dialogue. Sorry.
yeah. Uh-huh.
It's the opposite of first.
Uh-huh.
What if the person does have mental illness, but they are denying and they will not accept?
That is another, can be a lifelong challenge. You hope, you pray, you offer to walk alongside someone and give them as much help as they're willing to accept.
There you go.
We cannot really change another person or their reaction to help as much as we'd like to. The person themselves does have to be receptive to the fact that they have a mental health challenge and that they might seek help for it. Most people get to that point, but some never do. The run steps are the deepest. Develop a late counseling ministry. Hold mental health support groups for children. A lot of places will partner with us or someone else to hold mental health support groups for adults. Holding them for children who may have a mental health challenge themselves or a mental health challenge with a parent is a much more specialized thing. And if you have a very vital and active children's ministry, you might think about being able to do that. Hold a mental health ministry event. Gee, now there's a thought. Just like this event today. I was so excited last year when I was just running the resource table for this event. And, now I got the credentials finally doing what I was doing on the side for NAMI, and that's being their FaithNet coordinator. Not every affiliate has a FaithNet coordinator, but my particular areas of expertise and challenges in life fit me very well to be that person because I speak church and I speak NAMI. And they are almost languages where you kind of understand what to say, how to say it, and what the questions that are going to come about. Yeah, you know this too. You're nodding a lot. there are lots of ways to learn more about NAMI. The easiest way is to go online and go to our national website, NAMI.org, NAMI.org. We have NAMI California, NAMICA.org, and listed and all in your materials is NAMIventura.org for NAMI Ventura County. We have a very active affiliate. NAMI itself was begun in 1978-9 nationwide, and our affiliate in Ventura County has been around since 1981,
Wow.
helping people and doing what they need to find acceptance, education, advocacy. We have active programs in all three of those tracks. We always are looking for new members, new people to get the word out. And if you need help or education in any of these areas, we've got a way to do it somehow, some way. I believe we have an active chapter, not chapter, but state affiliate in virtually every state. I cannot say every state for sure, but in most U.S. states and territories like Puerto Rico, we have active NAMI folks. There's the whole chain. We offer support, we offer awareness. Things like this, coming and talking to you, is awareness and education at the same time. We do state and local and national advocacy for law changes that we need, for other things where we get further acceptance of mental health on a county, a state, a what have you basis. There is one of those things that's really more myth than anything. Well, everybody who's homeless is mentally ill. No, that's actually not quite true. There is a higher experience, 1 in 4, depending, instead of 1 in 5 in the general population. But the people we're most aware of are the chronically homeless folks who have a serious mental illness. And if you know how hard it is to get treatment for a mental illness, even if you have good insurance and a roof over your head and a job and all those things, imagine if none of that was the case. Without a physical address, it's very difficult for you to get medication, health care, a job, any of those things that helps us thrive in life. And so the chronically mentally ill who are also chronically homeless often add a third element to that, and that is substance abuse, because they're self-medicating for their illness with drugs or alcohol because that's what's available to them. So what you see the most often are the folks who are mentally ill. But homelessness does not cause mental illness. It just lifts it up to where we see more of it if that person happens to be homeless. This is our local affiliate, NAMI Ventura County, and I still did not put the NAMIventura.org on there. Nothing like looking at your own slides and saying, oops, but I will do that for next time.
It is on your handout.
Yes, it is on all the handouts, and we do that on purpose, but you are part of what we can do, how we can help and serve people, and I am open here. We can make a difference. Church can make a difference in a way that no one else can. Because again, we offer hope. We have a built-in community that already communicates with each other and is founded on love and outreach. And we are challenged to serve others every day. And this is a very good way we can serve each other. There's more that you can get even more resources than the few that I've given you at nami.org/FaithNet, because they have other free resources to talk about mental health challenges in a church kind of way. There are all kinds of ways we can talk about this, but faith communities have a special in to be able to talk about it in a certain way. And who else has more questions? Yeah, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm obviously triggering a lot of thoughts about a lot of people, but
That's great.
when I think about certain folks, some people wear their affliction kind of like a badge of honor, and it's almost like a dare to get somebody to help them, and yet they're angry at the same time that they aren't being helped. And in that dynamic, where have you found success in interrupting that almost like, I'm going to reject you before you reject me dynamic?
You just described the I'm going to reach out to you before you reach out to me. Do you
I'm going to
mean the person?
reject
Oh,
you.
reject you.
Before you reject
That
me.
is a human condition.
Yeah, it is indeed, and it seems more extreme in my thinking with individuals that are suffering, want help, but present in such a way that sets you up to walk away.
It's likely that they have been rejected so many times that that is their default setting,
Right?
shall we say. You only show up and listen. If I can only stand here and say two things over and over, it would be show up and listen, because you're going to hear the hurt in people. If you can be acceptance for that hurt and show the kind of listening that takes a while to develop. It goes a long way past the I statements. What I hear you saying is this right? And sometimes they may say, no, that's not at all right. It's this, that, and the other. But there again, you've gotten them to name their challenges, their problems, in such a way that you're not owning them, and you're not trying to put a label on them. I statements are a great thing, especially if you have teenagers. I've passed that point, thank you, Lord. but I've got a 5-year-old grandson, and he'll cruise toward that again, just like his uncle and his dad did. Anybody?
Yeah, my major was psychology, and when I got my bachelor for my PhD at Cal Lutheran, I'm so sorry, my master's at Cal Lutheran,
Yay.
I just grabbed my materials and I used to lay them on the floor to just mark them, in the beginning. Then my 6-month-old son started crawling, and for a moment I thought it was my dog. So the way I picked him up and I put him on the ground, he lost breath. His nose got purple, like he was choking.
Yeah.
And I said, oh my God, I might have hurt his vertebrae. So my mom was there. She goes, what are you doing? You either give birth, take care of a child, or you're selfish to go to school. You want to go get your master's in psychology, guess what? When your kid is 15, 16 years old, somebody's going to, treat your child. You better raise your family. So I kissed my book, put them in a bookshelf. I said, when my kid graduates from high school, I come back to school. To make the long story short, my older son, when he was in high school, found the doctors. He was talking about becoming a plastic surgeon. The money and respect was there.
Okay.
And then he went to Westlake High School working with cadavers, live cadavers. He said, Mom, I think I'm going to be a heart surgeon. It's interesting. So he went to receive himself undergrad. He goes, you know what, Mom? I heard that orthopedic surgeons, neurosurgeons have to say, respect and money. So he changed his mind until he got to George Washington University Medical School, undergrad. He goes, Mom, I think orthopedic surgeons globally have to say and respect and the money. So he changed a lot. And one time he was home for his graduate. He goes, Mom, I'm going to go, I chose field of psychiatry. My husband and I are just dropped. Even though my major is psychology, he said all the money, all the time, all the effort, psychiatry? It was, Mom, I always thought about the respect, the money, what I say, but my professors are young, right, because this generation, I don't know what they call them now, the new
Yeah, we're past Gen X, we're into Z
I
and
don't know
beyond.
what they call them, because of isolation on their phone, social media, stuff like that. When they raise their head out, they don't see anybody. Nobody emails them. Nobody says, I love you. Nobody holds them. They think they're losers. He said those who have family background with drugs, alcohol, they need medication. We work with them. But Mom, about 90-some%, just like you and I, because of broken homes, broken relationships, love, doesn't matter, abuse, hitting, stuff like that, they go to drugs, circumstances, environment, loss of job for a man, cannot afford the family, they're going to be on the street.
Right.
Those causes, alcohol and drug abuse, I want to focus about that. It's not the money, it's not the title, the respect. I want to work for humanity. He taught me a lesson.
Woo.
And he said he's trying to get government help.
Good.
And he said that he's going to start from Washington, D.C. in Oxnard. He said, I want to buy a field with vegetable, fruit, trees. Most of them are embarrassed because they had to steal, got in trouble with law, went to jail. When they go back from rehab to the same environment, neighborhood, family, they're embarrassed because they hit somebody, they stole.
Right.
I want to get them away, like from Washington, send them to Oxnard. Let them work with the field, with the tree. They see that shoot coming out is a new beginning, new life. That's them. And until they're not going to graduate, I'm going to keep them. Just know their self-respect, their self-value, that I'm somebody, everybody makes a mistake. I did. Now I'm ready to move on to the society.
Okay, so that's quite a life journey.
Blueprint the government and move people, shift them to different environment. If they're going to go back to the same place, is the bill, but they're ready. They're not going to go back to this old habit. My thing is that with my background that I mentioned, I saw this activity today on Acorn newsletter. And I said, John, when he comes back in 2 years, for his scholarship, I want him to be active for the community.
Yeah, well, we can put him in a work here.
His volunteer work I learned from, like the doctor was talking from professionals who are seniors.
Well,
so I came to open the pad. I'm going to share everything for him.
Awesome.
One of my girlfriend was missing from the latest Bible study, the 300 kids, she was missing. I left message, nothing. Last Easter she said, can you come over, I want to talk to you. I said, oh, this is serious, I know them for 2-4 years, good private family.
Okay.
So when I went, it's amazing what you're saying, I see it here, what you just said. She said that her husband started weight training. He couldn't get a job. They moved to Texas, hoping a job. It's cheap, it's great, great environment, but there was no job. They were using their life saving. He came back immediately. Couldn't find a job. Everything is digital now. If you are in Silicon Valley, you have a job. So he started Uber. And on his free time, he does weightlifting. Somebody offered him steroid shots, intravenously.
Enough said. Yes.
So she said, yesterday she told me the very paranoid. He bit her up. I said, why you didn't mention this when you came back from Texas? She said, he bit her up. There's a little kid, 11-year-old, the 2-year-old doesn't know. 11-year-old is a boy. He doesn't want to go to school because he's afraid of his mom. And he threatened them. He said, I'm going to kill all of you and myself. He doesn't let her leave the house. She can't drive. I said, why can't I? Since yesterday, my heart cried. So I came home at 10 p.m. My younger son, who's an attorney, he goes, Mom, what's wrong? His friend was there, Mike. He's very spiritual. I said, this is what my friend said. I don't take it a joke. If somebody says, I want to kill you and myself.
Yeah.
And he goes, his attorney, Mom, don't get involved. He's going to come after me. After I said, I will call John, see what I can do. He goes, no, don't introduce us to us. I told them. If you help her, he's going to know who you are. He's going to come. I said, I'm not afraid. I have Jesus with me. Even if he kills me, I know where I'm going to go.
Okay.
Michael is, sorry, Michael is a spiritual.
Yeah.
But thank you, but Mommy, this is serious. I texted the church that they go. I talked to the pastor. This is the question I had, so sorry. I texted the pastor at 7 a.m. I said, are you available? I need to talk to you.
There you go.
Because she says you would listen to this pastor.
Well,
And I don't want to talk to him alone. You know, like he goes, who are you telling? I'm a man. It is
Right, right.
that male,
that
and I respect
ego
that.
thing, but yeah.
The man is the head of the house. I respect that.
Okay.
So I was going to talk to my pastor. He did call me, and I'm going to text it.
Okay.
Available.
Well, good luck to you.
The thing is that I can afford for a short time to pay them $1,000 per month. I think the husband, knowing this family for 4 years, his ego financially is suffering. I was going to tell my pastor either the church helps him out, don't say a woman is helping, or in front of the pastor say, listen, for a short period it's going to be hard on me, but it's the family, it's for the Lord.
Yeah.
I can, by side by side, you work over, I support you $1,000 a month until she's enough.
This is another one where maybe we can talk at lunch because this is getting deeper than I can go here. Any mental health ministry questions on what happens next? How are you? I'd like to know something about, a little bit about anybody who feels like sharing. Why are you here today, and what's going on with you or your church, or how could we help you? You had a hand up first.
Yeah, well, I guess that kind of answers the question now. But as to the awareness piece, she brought this up a little in the story, which is I work in reentry, so these are the population of people either coming out of county jail, prison, or on probation parole, or maybe had some record in the past. But we see a lot of people who have mental health, serious mental health, or not what you might consider serious, but just haven't had treatment and instead ended up in jail. And so I think this is great because I feel like if churches, places of worship and faith communities could step up and do even better that's where they should find healing. Jail's not going to fix it.
No, not at all.
So,
Anybody got a guess where the largest mental health facility in California is?
Twin Towers? Or
Beverly Hills.
Twin Towers downtown LA?
Twin Towers?
It's
jail.
Jail.
Yes.
The jail, yeah.
Yes. The LA County Jail
Yeah.
psychiatric unit is the largest mental health provider in California, folks. And because it is not their main job, they do not do a grand job of it. They are building a separate facility. Even Ventura County is talking about a separate small facility because an incredible number of people in the jail and prison population are there because of treated or untreated mental health challenges that do not get any better while they're behind bars.
No, get worse.
And yes, that's kind of one of those
Yeah.
crawl, run, walk, run kind of things. A run ministry would be helping folks who are coming out of prison or jail with their mental health ministry.
I wanted to add one more thing.
Yeah.
We have like a mom, for example, who was reaching out to us, and she said she almost would rather her son have a longer sentence because she was out of resources. She didn't know how to help him. She was like, maybe it's better in jail. Of course it wasn't, and he was involved in drugs, and they do just as much drugs in there. So, but she just.
One learning experience. If you are part of a church or church staff or someone who is just running the office on a basic basis. If you have need of an officer for a crisis situation, tell them you want CIT. You want a CIT officer. Crisis intervention training that they've taken it. Ventura County is blessed to be one of the highest percentages of anybody in the nation that has CIT. Were you going to say something or just clear your throat?
Oh, I was clearing my throat, but you know, I think
CIT, crisis
CIT.
intervention training.
for me the bigger overall picture is really, I'm imagining there are people that are similar to me, obviously not everyone, but it's like, okay, well, I wouldn't know what to do or what to say. You know, I'm better now than I used to be. We have my son has a friend who's schizoaffective and, you know, cold. And he came to the church and has had a miraculous intervention by God. I mean,
Awesome.
He's still got his issues.
Yeah.
But so, you know, I can interact with him. But I mean, really, my comfort level of working with somebody or even just talking to them is like, okay, well, I don't know. I mean, I guess my question is, are there basic things that we can share with a congregation more as a whole that would be accepting of somebody and being loving?
Yes. You can start with this presentation tailored to your church, which we will do. Or something like it, where you just start talking about what is mental illness, what does it look like, what doesn't it look like. Chances are good that every fifth person who is sitting in your congregation is dealing with something like this. Whether it's the cults of this world with schizoaffective disorder, or whether it's someone like myself that is only had depression and anxiety, and you may not even know that.
Right.
There were a few years where I did not share that with people at church because of the bad reaction of one person when I started to reveal that. I just kind of pulled back for, your basic decade of sharing that with folks at a church.
Wasn't safe.
Because it wasn't safe.
Yeah.
There are all kinds of education ways that NAMI can help you or other organizations, but NAMI does a fairly good job in this area of starting the conversation. If you want to go deeper than just a 1 hour Bridges of Hope, there are programs that we can do that go deeper into things. One of the things we do, and I'm trying to run one about every month somewhere in Ventura County right now, is called Family and Friends. It's a 4-hour workshop on what is mental health, what is mental illness, what does all this look like.
I was thinking
How
in
does one
bigger
respond?
picture, just, you know, your average person in church
Yeah,
who, I mean, at least in our area, it seems like we're pretty surface level. A lot of people, and just, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
How's things going? Okay, good. Well, see you next week. You know,
Yeah.
that type of thing. And more of a, it's more of a cultural change, I think, but still it would be something where it was more of a conversation.
Oh.
I don't know.
there we go. One of the other programs that is just a program that we offer is one called In Our Own Voice. And it has a person who lives with a mental health challenge, who is into recovery, and so is highly functional, come and tell their story and some general NAMI information story. It takes anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes, depending on how much conversation and question you have. And you can ask for an In Our Own Voice speaker. They
Are there
will come-
fees related to bringing speakers in?
Are there what?
Fees?
No.
Okay.
NAMI provides all of our programs and all of our classes, all of our support groups, are free of charge to the persons taking them.
Wow.
We write grants up the spout. We do. We have a NAMI walk every year that raises most of our money. The next one will be May 2nd. And on the not on the pier, but next to the pier in Ventura, we start out. If you want to get some awareness for NAMI, start with a walk team. Join one. I'm trying to get a pan-Lutheran one going called Stigma Free Faith, and we'll be walking for sure. But, all kinds of churches. I'd love to get a FaithNet team that would be anybody from any church or temple or mosque even in Ventura County who would like to join us via FaithNet walk team. So
you're saying this in your voice of the
in
person
our
that
own
comes-
voice,
in
yeah,
our
in our own voice.
This person would be able to maybe communicate. This is good.
This is
Talk
what
to us.
This is what living with mental illness is like. This is my personal story.
Yeah.
It's always a story with hope that ends. And then, we just did one. I was part of the team that set one up at a church in Simi Valley just a few weeks ago, the last week in September.
Mhm.
It was part of a series that particular church is doing called Community Conversations. And they're talking about all kinds of issues and programs and what have you. They brought us in one Thursday night. I think in October they were bringing somebody in with homeless services in Simi. But talking about, this is here, what can we do? And from that conversation has been their start of getting a mental health ministry going. I am available on a very limited basis to, like once a month, offer services as, not all FaithNet coordinators do this, but I preach. And I preach in my own congregation about once a month. But if you want an actual part in your service to talk about mental health, I can point you towards all kinds of resources, scriptural litanies, psalms, you name it, that start bringing this in. So, is that helping?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, in the back.
So I'm Trish, and I'm an outreach coordinator for Calvary. And I've been there about 2 years, and one of the things that I wanted to just address, like he was saying, because I've tried to go in and effectively change culture in our church. So we had outreach ministries where we met needs.
And you're starting to do it.
But, we've been doing that for a
Yeah.
long time. But what I wanted to say is that to change culture, the way that I've approached it is, first I got to know the people that were serving because they have big hearts to serve.
Yes, they
And
do.
then we began to educate people, and I started with little cliche things like loving people right where they are, right as they are. That there's such beauty in brokenness, and that as a congregation we have to get to where we celebrate our own brokenness so that we are transparent in the ways that we suffer, so that people feel safe when they share how they suffer. And then I would say the last thing, now that we've sort of built this culture of loving people where they are, as they are, it's not an us, them, it's we're in this all together. The final thing now is that we are starting to look at people with mental health issues as our VIPs. These are the people that are the least among us.
Yep.
And that they're sometimes the most prickly, the most difficult.
Close it down here.
Because of the issues that they bring with them. But if we can learn to, and learn some of the skills that it takes to learn to listen to them, make them feel safe, and handle them differently, not governed by the rules of our programs, but maybe treat them slightly differently.
Yes.